Hello, I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy. Today we're talking about the next generation XM7 Spider anti-personnel device. It's a digital upgrade to the legacy M18 Claymore. The Spider is what would happen if you combined a Claymore, 6 grenade launchers, and a Wi-Fi router all into one. Unlike the Claymore though, you can't write front towards enemy on it because it covers any direction, firing grenades out at a full 360 degrees of coverage. So instead you could write, "Good luck enemy." It's literally a remote controlled grenade launcher. This thing has 360 degrees of yeet. Just don't ask me why the Pentagon called it the Spider even though it only has 6 legs. On a related side note, don't try hitting this thing with a rolled up newspaper. So I'll give you a good hypothetical combat situation where these devices would be a huge game changer. Let's say you're in charge of a platoon of soldiers and you're tasked with defending a village. First thing you do is you go on patrol around the town and plant like 60 of these XM7 Spiders all around the perimeter up to 4 kilometers away. The XM7 then shoots out a web of sensors that detects if anyone is moving near the device. It digitally sends the location of any signs of movement back to base. You go back to your defensive position inside the town and open up the remote control station laptop. Later that night, the laptop alerts you that a few of the XM7s sense movement northeast of their position. You have the observation post use thermal night vision to check if it's enemy movement. They confirm that the enemy has weapons and they're advancing on your position. With a press of the button, you fire off all the grenades pointed towards the location of that movement. The enemy regroups and continues to advance forward past the XM7s. Now, with another press of the button, you can fire off the other 3 grenades pointed in the opposite direction, destroying the enemy position. This system just gave you early warning of incoming hostiles and the ability to then attack them. I posted about the XM7 Spider on my Instagram to see what you all thought of the device, and you had some great observations like this one. We emplaced one in Afghanistan and the locals stole it within 10 minutes. The device actually has a feature that bricks itself or turns itself off if you try tampering with it. So the XM7 hasn't been fully fielded yet. It's run into various problems because of how complicated it is to use. The Claymore, for instance, doesn't require batteries. So infantry in general distrusts anything with a keypad or batteries or anything that requires you to use brain power. That doesn't mean that there isn't a demand for it though, because Wired reported back in 2004 how the US Army was going to purchase nearly 300,000 of these 6-legged Spider munitions at a cost of about $500 million. As many of you might already know, US forces since 2004 have promised that they would never use persistent landmines again after the year 2010. The reason for this is because of the horrible effects those kinds of devices have had on collateral damage to innocent people. UXOs, as they're called, are a big problem around the world. The Pentagon asked for the creation of the XM7 Spider because they wanted a safer alternative to the old persistent mines. So you might be wondering, why are we allowed to use the XM7 if it looks like, sounds like, and acts a lot like a mine? The key distinction here is that the XM7 is a man-in-the-loop system, which means soldiers have to press a button to command detonate it. This device cannot be activated by some unsuspecting enemy walking over it. If it's kicked or tampered with, then it actually becomes inert and bricks itself, completely zeroing any of its information, and it's no longer lethal. This helps prevent unintended injury on the battlefield and stops the enemy from picking it up and repurposing it against you. It's super modular because it lets you load non-lethal munitions. I guess the real question here is going to be whether or not you believe in the Pentagon's reasoning. Is this actually a landmine or not? It's been a roller coaster for the developers to get the DoD to accept this device. I've read through all the reports and you can see each time that they think it's ready for operational use, it gets kicked back to the development team for changes, but to their credit, each iteration has fixed a lot of the problems that they had with it. It's now more reliable and can actually be reused after firing it. The device was eventually rushed into combat use in Afghanistan in the year 2009 because a bunch of combat outposts were getting overrun. You still need to carry 84 commercial batteries to sustain these things in the field, which that costs around $2,400. Or if you're like my old supply sergeant, you get a knockoff batteries and it only costs about $1,400. This next generation landmine that's definitely 100% not a landmine at all will never replace the M18 Claymore in my opinion for a few reasons. So the Spider costs $5,000 to create, not including grenades, while the Claymore only costs $250. The Claymore is incredibly easy to use and deploy, and you don't need to worry if you forgot your Wi-Fi password in order to use it. Don't get me wrong, the Spider is an awesome new tool for combat engineers to use when creating perimeter defenses, and I think in like 5 iterations from now, when it's version 20 and it's using laser sensors to detect the enemy, and it knows its own name and it can talk, and it says, "Cappy, you're not even my favorite soldier in the platoon," that's when it might replace the Claymore.